in the audience and for those on staff, we are now live streaming. So to those million people around the world that are watching this at home or watching this on replay, we say welcome to
Let's get ready to rumble.
Let's welcome you to the board meeting of January 18th. Board members, we have two topics prior to your 7 o'clock vote, and I remind you that there is an 8 o'clock vote as well. We are going to go through the 23-24 general fund budget in a preliminary way. I'm going to ask Becky and Julie to join me in a moment. We have a brief agenda review, and then there is a need for executive session, which I believe we can do prior to our 7 o'clock meeting if we move smartly and efficiently through this agenda. And I'll give those reasons at the time for executive session, and there'll be two reasons that will follow the freedom of information, all the regulations and requirements. But I want to begin with the 23-24 budget, and before Ray puts it up there, and I'd like Becky and Julie to come forward. Would you mind, ladies? And I'm going to give to the viewers, the audience, a bit of a preamble before we dig into this. So, first of all, as always, thanks to these two ladies for their leadership on the budget. Secondly, I want to tell you this. We have not officially received any budget runs from the state, official runs. With the Governor's State of the Union, it's usually about this time when we receive something, but we have not to date, nor has any school district. That's number one. Number two, this is our best thinking as of January the 18th. As you know, because you've all been through this process, we have until late March, early April to complete this, at which time we believe we'll have all of the information that we need. Just want to give you a bit of a preamble. Remember that the issue that the public is asked to vote on is a bottom line number, only a bottom line number. All of the information we're going to give to you over the next 3 months is what constitutes that bottom line number. The second thing I want to tell you is I would like to thank the governor, and I know she watches this regularly, but I'd like to thank Governor Hochul for making good on her promise and our estimate of fully funding foundation aid. In a district like Niagara Falls, foundation aid, where we can't raise, and you have not chosen to, I believe correctly, raise the property tax level, we rely on foundation aid funding. And the governor promised a 3-year phase-in. This is the 3rd year of the phase-in. And if our preliminary estimates are correct, she has done what she said. Now, do I think the foundation aid formula is fair and right? No. I think it's a formula from 2007 that needs to be adjusted. And we're working toward that purpose. The other thing that the governor did in the foundation aid formula is she added in a cost of living increase that we appreciate because you know the CPI is pushing 7 or 8%. The budget that we're going to initially provide for you this evening has zero budget gap, which is almost unheard of. I don't even think we did it last year. This will be the first time in January that there'll be no gap in the budget that we've got to make up. The second thing I'm going to tell you is that it's up to you. You are the 9-member board, but we don't, as your recommender, as me as your recommender and as the finance team as their recommender to me, we don't see any need to do anything with the tax levy. We feel that we have, if this foundation aid formula comes in the way we have it, we have enough money to do what we need to do without raising the tax levy. But again, that's your decision. Something that we're proud of in this budget, and you know that over the course of the last couple of years, we've been the beneficiary of what was called CRISA money and ARP, American Rescue money. What this budget will do for you is it will completely take back in the general fund budget all of those reoccurring costs that were in the grants. What do I mean by that? The only thing that will be left in the ARP budget will be one-shot expenditures, we're able to walk back all the staff into this budget without any reductions in staff and not be reliant on that ARP money after this year. That's a huge, huge amount of money, and it's a huge issue because in talking to a few colleagues around the county, they're very concerned with their budget that they're going to have to start to lay people off because they use that money to hire positions and can't walk it back into the general fund budget. We'll show you that in a moment. But our budget that we're going to propose to you initially today walks back almost $9 million that was reoccurring money will now be able to fit in the general fund budget. We're going to ask you to use one reserve fund. That's the debt service reserve. You know, we've spent a lot of money on projects. It's the only one we are. I will tell you this, the one number that we can't give you, and you won't officially know until November, is the amount of money that we'll have carried over from this year to next year that we didn't spend. But just by some initial work from these ladies, we believe we will have some carryover money. This is the first draft out of the box. I want to say it now, and I'll say it one more time. And this is a very sensitive and touchy subject, but you will also see our reserve funds, which you, as members of the board, have worked extremely hard to build up over the last couple of years. And I know Mr. Petrozzi jokes about the time when he started, and we didn't have $1 in reserve. Now we're going to make a call to Standard & Poor's to get our bond rating up to A+. That's testament to your work. But I have to couch that with one warning, and I can't get into too much detail about this, but you know, because we've had executive sessions around the Child Victims Act. We do have child victims cases. As it stands right now, for our district and other districts that have those cases, the money comes from the budget. Tonight's not the night to debate that or talk about that, but I do need to put that out there at all times in the spirit of being transparent. So that is quite a heavy lift and a heavy load. Finally, what you're not going to see on here is you're only going to see one budget, our general fund budget. Please remember that we have a cafeteria budget that we are currently in the process of purchasing $259,000 worth of new equipment, new cafeteria tables for certain schools. I think Hyde Park is nodding their head. That's why they're here, just to applaud the fact that there's cafeteria tables there for Ms. Bianco and Mr. Tuma. But we do have a good cafeteria budget, not for tonight. We are spending $259,000 of it this year. Last evening, you did pass a capital project, the community passed a capital project budget. So in addition to $8 million of ARP improvements, there'll be $29.3 million of capital improvements. And of course, we've got a whole nother grant budget. This tonight is the general fund budget only. This is the A budget. Oftentimes I tell you, look at that, that's an F code, that's a grant. All we're talking about tonight is the A general fund budget that the voting public of Niagara Falls on May 16th has the opportunity to address the bottom line on. So with that, I'm going to ask you to let Becky and Julie smartly go through this, and then we will answer all of your questions to the best of our ability. Beck?
Okay.
Well,
That's up to you.
Okay, so I guess we'll do them as we go.
I guess we are.
That's okay, Mr. Velardo.
The
No,
reserves are on the second page.
that's all right, Mr. Velardo.
Yes.
He likes vanilla, I like chocolate. He likes coffee, I like milk. Go ahead, Nick.
You like the Yankees? You like
I like the Yankees, he likes the Dodgers.
And
But go ahead, did you have a question, Nick? Yeah. I'll leave it at that, maybe a little bit, yeah. Go ahead. Oh.
yes.
Okay, Rebecca.
Okay, if we look, this is the same format we've used in the prior year, so I'm hoping that it's familiar to everyone. We'll look at the revenue side first. In the current year, we're working with a revenue budget of $164,894,787. What we do is we take the current budget as it was approved and roll everything forward. Then underneath, we make adjustments to the current budget. So if you look down, foundation aid, very preliminary number is that it's going to increase by $16,318,552. That's an unprecedented increase. And again, it's fully funding our foundation aid formula, and it's also including an 8% cost of living increase.
Right, they recognize cost of living, CPI, 8% went into that. So I applaud the governor for that. Just by context, last year's foundation aid, I don't have it clear, but it was $8.8 million. How'd I do?
You're good.
8.8 million, look what it went up to. That's see what happens when you fully fund? See what happens when the governor follows the rules and follows the law? Districts like Niagara Falls get what they're entitled to, as opposed to former governors that didn't follow the law. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Next is BOCES aid. On the initial run, BOCES aid is being reduced from the current year, and it's accurate based on a snapshot of our spending right now. But we know that we're going to have additional purchases before year end. So that number you will see changing probably frequently between now and when we ask you to adopt a budget. The excess cost aid is based on the run, and we don't have any adjustments to that at this time. It's too early. Hardware, textbook, software aid, instructional materials, that is off of the initial run. Transportation aid, that the run has not been updated with our actual expenses for this year. Our expenses are running a little bit higher due to the CPI increase in the contracts. That is our current estimate of what the aid should increase. Building aid will be going down because we have projects that are falling off. When you look at the appropriation side, you'll see it. Debt that's falling off, I should say. And subsequently, aid follows suit. So in the current year, we did use $555,000 of our debt reserve. That is funded by premiums from prior borrowings. That is taken out from the carryover. But if you scroll down, for this year's debt, we're allocating $750,000 of that reserve, and that's based on a very intricate formula that we follow, and Julie's been really good about following that formula to use the premiums as they were prescribed. So if you add everything up, we're looking at a total revenue budget of $179,184,862. Now, the other side of the sheet is what we anticipate our spending levels to be, and I'm going to let Julie start on that.
So right now, that's what we think will come into the district from those sources. Again, it's January 18th, and we don't have an official run. I'm anticipating in the next week.
Last year it was on the 18th.
Okay.
It was on January 18th last year, but
So at 10 o'clock when the meeting's over, Becky will go up and check her computer to see if it's there. We should be getting it any minute. We should be getting, but that's the amount of money we expect to get in this district, all combined for next year. That's what we have to work with. That's why I say to you, we should be able to run a quality instructional program with safety for kids at that amount of money. We should, and hence, I don't think you need to touch the tax levy, which we haven't calculated yet, but that's what generates, we should be able to do a quality program for kids. Julie's going to take the hard part. Becky gets the good part.
On top there, 164, 894, 787, that top line. 153.
153, 595.
153.
Damn, you're good. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, it's the change. Yep.
Use your mic, Mike. Mike.
So you're giving a column with the projected increase, not the total.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Or the decrease.
Right, so we start with the total up there, which is this year's current budget, 22-23, which is the 164,894,000, and then we're layering on any changes.
Okay, just want to make sure before.
Good question.
Thank you. So yeah, we'll start with the salaries and the wages. Those are for all of our bargaining units. We have not officially done projections, so those numbers will change, but right now we just used estimates. And we'll get to projections within the next month here. As Mr. Laurie mentioned, you'll then see the Carissa staffing line of about $5 million coming back. That is the $13 million of Carissa money we received originally 2 years ago. So that's bringing everyone back. That's completely done as of the end of this fiscal year. The ARP, that 3.8, that's bringing back all of the ARP staff. So everyone's coming back, and that was all the new programming, math AIS teachers, PS2, and there's many more, but bringing all of that staff back to the general fund.
Okay, I have a different view on this. So I'm going to present it and then maybe we have a conversation. So we're taking back $9 million into the general fund. But the $9 million was through ARP and grant money. That $9 million is still in our budget covering other costs. You didn't spend it on, when the money came in, you're taking you're taking the cost into the general fund, but the grant money is being used for something else.
Absolutely.
Okay, what my point is we're taking things back in the general fund, showing them where we should. But next year, we're 9 million short.
Well, it depends. That's why we're trying to keep non-recurring
One
items.
shot
Yes,
costs.
yes.
But I want to point that out,
And the-
next year,
and the
we're 9
grant.
million. We're not just, we're taking it back, we're also using that money for something else. Maybe pay for a roof or something else, so hopefully we don't have to do again. But we're not shedding that other cost. We use that money to cover a cost that we would have had to pay out of the general fund.
Correct, and then in the following year, then we'll have to make decisions about, do we want to maintain any of the items that were in ARP as we move forward?
Okay, now that 9 million, if I'm correct, we took 9 million last year back?
No,
or
not that much.
6 million?
It was like 4.5.
Okay.
The first half.
Could we call
of
it
Carissa's
5?
staff we brought.
So we've had 14 million, that was the 80 jobs I think we're talking about? Am I correct? Folks, there was
Maybe more than that.
can I call it 90 for the sake of
How about
argument?
calling it 100? It's a round
Okay,
number. I do
okay.
better with round numbers.
No, but my
Yeah, you're right.
question.
You're right.
My question is, and I asked it last year, but it's probably not answered tonight, but what did those 100 jobs do for us? I would like, someone to do an analysis. We brought social workers, are our grades up, graduation rates? Our elementary schools performing better? We have 100 jobs, which is probably 12% of our employment up in 2 years. And I get it, last year was a disaster for everyone coming back from COVID. But I would think I'd like to see what happened this year.
Can I jump in?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
How about if we try this? I heard your request, and I'm going to fulfill it to the exact number. But can we go through this, and then can I try and answer that a little bit tonight?
Yeah, no, I'm not.
No, I know, I want
Please,
to.
folks, I don't want anyone to think
Yeah.
I'm being arrogant or critical. 15 million's a lot of money.
Yeah,
15 million to me, 1 million is 4%. So we're talking $10 million is a 40% tax decrease. We could cut our taxes in half, take that 15 million out of the budget. I don't even want to say that. Well, I'm not, it's our budget, our part of our budget is 25 million. Take out 15 million, our taxes go down 60%.
and I
Just making a point.
And I know you're making a good point. I want to make a point, if I may, respectfully. Our mission is to educate and provide a safety net for children in the city. And I know you know
I was
that.
going to add something. My point was.
I
all
cut
want-
you off, I'm
My
sorry.
point, what I'm asking is as long as we're getting value for our money.
yeah. No, Russ, from the,
I know this is a constructive
Yeah.
conversation. I'm not knocking anybody.
I know you're not. I know you're
And-
not.
and
Because
I-
I would never say anything about
And
I would never say anything about the shirt service at Capitol Cleaners.
I
I would
appreciate
never
the rebuttal.
say about the number of shirts of Ed Ventry's that you've lost to Capitol Cleaners. So it's a constructive kind of.
Well, I gave them to you. What do
You
you
did.
want?
All right. They're too tight for me, but you're right. You're completely right. And from the minute, I want to give you your credit. From the minute this money came in, I will quote you and do the best I can. I'm fine with this, but I want to see what it's being used for, and I want to see results.
But my point going forward is if it's working, wonderful. If it's not working, I'm not saying we need to cut it, but we need to try something else. You know, sometimes we get complacent and the money's there, we spend it.
Yep.
Just want to see what the results are, that's
So I
all.
know Mr. Bass has a question, but at the end, I'm going to try and answer a little bit, but I'll give you exact figures at our next meeting. Go ahead, Earl.
This one's a little more brief and not as involved, but, are we allowed, not allowed, but are we bringing some of that 9 million back because we have such a significant increase in foundation aid? Is that what's allowing us to do that? Or at least a big chunk of it?
Yes, definitely.
This guy might not be able to get the smart schools money passed, but he figured that out pretty quick. You nailed it.
Because I mean, it's like, it's about $1 million off.
Yeah. You nailed it, Earl. You nailed it. I mean, it's not dollar for dollar, but philosophically, that's what we did. And Russ, I'm not discounting your point. We have a lot of fun arguing and debating things, and your question is well taken. But Earl, that's how we were able, Mr. Bass, that's how we were able to do this. If that foundation aid was last year's foundation aid, we'd be having an $8 million gap. And I know what Russ is thinking, I think I know what he's thinking. Is the cliff coming? What's going to happen in 2 years, 1 year, 3 years? Is the cliff coming? You know, they're pulling back money. So I try not to be a mind reader, but I think that's what you're thinking too. And are we getting good value for the money we're spending? Is the return on investment worth the money? No, good. Go ahead.
So those were for the salaries. And then we roll forward all of the contracts. We estimated a 5% increase in all of our contracts, so that would be things like Memorial, the Evolve. Obviously, as we dive down deeper, we'll get a better number on that as well. Utilities, we did a blended increase of about 15%. Water and sewer, or water and electric, we estimated a little lower. The gas, we did increase there.
Julie, just real fast, because that's something I made us think about last year, where last year there was none, and now this year it's 15. Was it that high?
So
Was there an adjustment?
we are increasing it based off of the, right, so we had that increase last year, and so we're even increasing it again for next year.
So it is.
Yes, yep.
And Mr. Smeal keeps track of the futures for us, and that is his recommendation.
Do you want to say anything, Mr. Smeal? Sure. Why don't we talk about the Henry Hub?
Henry Hub?
Yeah.
Sure. What do you want to know about that?
What do you talk about utilities, please?
Okay, so the Henry
With the
Hub
microphone.
is where we get,
It's in Buffalo. That's the Hotel Henry. This is the Henry Hub.
The Henry Hub is in Louisiana, and it is the main entranceway for natural gas into the United States, and it's the main interconnection point for, I think, 11 different intra and interstate pipelines, and it's where the NYMEX gets its pricing. The NYMEX, then, we get our pricing from them via what's called the city gate through the county's STBA. We buy our natural gas from the county STBA. So the increases we've all seen in residential rates are real, obviously, we're all paying it, but they don't hit us quite as hard because of the way the STBA buys our gas for us. They buy it on the futures market, they buy it ahead, and they stagger it. So that way, the increase isn't as great. We don't get the impact that you often see at home, okay? But what we're anticipating is almost a 20% increase in the energy portion of natural gas prices. For simplification, we just put the increase on the utility line. So that's why you see it the way you see it.
Projection of anything going down? Usually how that works, we overextend that gas.
Well, there's no indication that anything's going down. What I do see that's somewhat promising is I don't see in the futures market a huge increase. You know, but now remember, we're talking about pricing for almost a full year out because we still haven't seen our big burn months for this fiscal year yet, which will be obviously this month, February and March. So it's kind of hard to say, but what I can tell you is in the futures market right now, we're not seeing a dramatic price increase, pressure increase. Does that make sense?
Thanks, Earl, very good job. You're welcome.
For transportation, we use an estimated 8% of CPI. Tuitions, those would be charter and out of district. We used a 5% increase for now. The BOCES interactive board purchase, that is showing as a decrease of $4 million because that will be a purchase in the 22-23 budget. So that's included in that up top number of the 164. So we take that out because that was a one-time purchase. Our other BOCES services, we're estimating those to increase at about 5%. Our debt service decreases just as we pay off our debt. ERS, the rate is increasing 1.5%. TRS, the rate is actually estimated to decrease. However, since salaries are increasing, there will be overall an increase to that budget line.
Good. Question?
Over here on tuition, on the tuitions where it says charter and out of district, $554,400 and some dollars. That is that charter school that's in the town of Niagara we're still funding, or we still have to, by law, have portions of it go there. Is that down or is it up, that figure?
I think we still have, the number of children in charter school has stayed the same, about 315 at Niagara Charter, I think, there. Maybe 320, but overall, that stayed around the same. Really, it's those private, out-of-district special ed placements that have really increased. Just due to like the nursing, the specialized services, so some of those, it's over $80,000 a year for tuition.
So we combined those two lines here for this presentation.
Yes.
Right.
The charter school portion of it is probably pretty steady.
Yes.
The majority of this, as much as I'd like to say that's $4 million, I wish we had, and I think we deserve, this is really for those very costly out-of-district children that we must take care of.
So the money still follows the student like it did before?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
Okay. And I'll jump back in, and we're looking at health insurance, active and retirees. I know that there was just a meeting with
Right.
New York 44. We expect the increase to be maybe a little bit less than 5%, but we cannot bank on that. We have to prepare ourselves for an increase of approximately 5%. The retiree health insurance, we're anticipating higher. Some retirees are on New York 44, some are on a different policy, United Healthcare. Those increases, we don't know until January. They run January to December. So we always have to anticipate what it could be. And so that could be as high as 10% or something, but then we net the anticipated increase.
Would you happen to know what that number is, what health insurance costs the district every year? It's 5%, I'm gonna guess, is it 8 million?
It's higher than that, but I would get the number. Julie might know it offhand. I don't. No, we can look. We'll look and
Just
get it
let me
for
know
you.
when you have a chance, text me.
Becky, and then real quick, is the retiree healthcare cost higher than the present?
Higher than the active? No, no.
Medicare is primary, that's why.
Yes, yes. If they're on United Healthcare, Medicare is the primary.
Yeah, and I don't mean to be picking, but this is just my first budget, so I'm
Yeah.
trying to
No,
understand the lines
that's
with
okay.
it.
But under New York 44, it's all one plan. They're all one Index allocations, the schools' spending needs have increased, and we accommodate them. We, transfer budget anytime there's a need, but just for the normal trend that we see a need to just increase their allocations going forward.
Mrs. Velardo's got very expensive taste at the high school. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, additional instructional FTEs and program. First run of conversation, we laid out a wish list that we're hoping to add 8 additional positions. The detail of that I don't have with me, but we estimate that includes benefits.
So in subsequent weeks, Rick will take us through much of that. Just to give you a flavor, Rick is analyzing some of our AIS programs, inclusive of PEP in the younger grades. I want to strongly look at the PS2 program at Niagara Falls High School. I think that's given great result. That has been a point, which I'd like to say, we can show you some very definite results. And I think that the future of that program certainly is unlimited as to where this team can take it. So we just put a lump in there right now with more detail to come, but we wanted to give ourselves a little bit of room to have conversations with you about some additional positions, inclusive of a restructuring that Rick would like to do in one of the programs that he oversees, but more detail to come. And I think I've given you the thinking behind the additional administrator there. That's a VP level position. We've talked about that before.
Okay. And then we have a need to replace building projectors in the district. And I think Mr. Guarneri could speak more to that if you need him to. If not, the professional development for all the interactive boards that are being installed or purchased this year, that professional development will occur next year. So we have to budget for that. The
Let me just take this one as a group back, just so the board kind of gets this one and the community gets this one. Ray, in this year's budget is replacing 471 interactive boards. There will be training, because these boards will be different, so we have to put training in so that the 471 teachers can use them appropriately, so we put training money in there. Then there are projectors in certain places like the Niagara Falls High School Performing Arts Center, the Niagara Falls High School Amphitheater. Where else? Wes is pointing right up here, that projector, we need to replace those. It's almost like that vehicle conversation. Pardon me? Yeah. If you don't do that on a regular cycle, you're going to get behind and they're not going to work. So this is the time we thought we would do that. Finally, in this lump here, Ray, we know that we're going to take those smart boards off the walls, and Ray will be giving you on the 9th his plan with the technology committee for how the smart board, but we may have a hole in the wall. So we're going to have to patch, paint, and put up new whiteboards behind them so that the teacher doesn't have a hole in the wall. If you follow what I'm saying, the board comes off, you can't leave it blank. The teacher is going to want a whiteboard to work off of. If the board is affixed, it'll go there. If it's not affixed, it'll be a hole. So we're trying to anticipate everything in this budget.
Question.
Yeah, sure.
We're going to do some of these board replacements in-house, right, with our manpower?
That's my goal right now, Tony. That's my goal right now. That we've got a lot of capital projects work to do, but we also have a better than I can explain to you maintenance team right now that Earl has advised me can do some of that stuff in-house.
I think it's a good idea.
And that's why, just so you know our thinking, you see the overtime budget go up a little bit. To fix those 471 rooms may take some additional times because they still have got their other work to do. So we're just trying to think of everything.
Mark,
Yeah.
I just want, so that our staff is going to repair the walls if need be.
Yes.
And they're also installing the new boards, or the company's going to install the new boards?
The company will put those together.
Okay.
No, because we're not gonna touch those.
No, that's what I was,
Yeah, but if there's a hole in the wall and there's gotta be a board put up or painted, I think our carpenters and like whoever Earl has to get there, Earl tells me they can do it. And I believe our men and women, especially our women, can do that.
Okay, so that was all taken in a group, so I'm going to move down to the building condition survey.
Yep,
It used to be every 5 years, all districts had to do it. They put everybody on a staggered schedule. Our year to do our building condition survey is 2023. We have to complete it before, I believe it's November 30th
Yep.
of 2023. So it's up to us 25 cents per square foot.
Yep.
So we're estimating 250 at the most. Hopefully it comes in a little bit less.
it's a state requirement and we haven't picked the company yet. At some point, I'll give you a recommendation based on conversations with Becky and Earl as to a company to do the building condition survey. We're just not there yet, but I have a strong sense who we're going to recommend. One comment on the computers. See the $50,000 for the Apple products? You'll love this, Mr. Bass, because I know you love smart schools. Ray is going to try to get that $50,000 out of smart schools. If he can get them to agree, we'll take it out of that budget and we'll move the $50,000 somewhere else. If he can't, it's in the budget. What Ray is going to start doing is piloting Apple products in our K to 2 grades, a different kind of device. And we wanted to we think our K to 2 kids can use a different device. Ray will explain more about that, but if he can't work his magic in the smart schools, which you know how difficult it is, we want to start piloting more fluid Apple products in K to 2. So that's why that's there. The CEC, I'll take this one if you guys don't mind, and you correct me if I'm wrong, ladies. The roof is going to get done this year, so it comes out. See the $2 million? That comes out. What has to go back in, that Earl has told me that is not eligible for aid, is a 29-year-old boiler at the CEC. And we are keeping that building because that's where Head Start is. So we're limping on a 29-year-old boiler at the CEC. And because we can't get capital projects aid on it, we have to take it out of the general fund or not do it. And I think we're on borrowed time. And finally, this didn't and won't get done, even though we told you this last year. You'll have a savings of about $200,000, but we're putting back in $225,000 for the Maria Massaro Memorial Fire Suppression System at the CEC. You remember we have 5, how many rooms do you have over there, Maria? 5. Maria has 5 rooms of records, and we can't let those records rooms not have a fire suppression. And she oftentimes feels left out when we talk about capital projects. She's not invited on trips. So we're giving her her own fire suppression system and calling it the Maria Massaro Fire Suppression System. So
as good as the sewer I got?
No, Mr. Pareto, your sewer system is much better than the Massaro Fire Suppression System, but we put it back in there. The bottom line, folks, is that the expenditures equal the revenues at this point, with one reserve.
Correct. Question?
Well, I'm trying to get a grip of the way I'm thinking about this. Correct me if I'm right or wrong. Okay, well, let's go to the foundation aid. We got 16 million extra, and part of that is because of they're catching up what they owe us. So we can't expect that next year.
That type of increase? Absolutely not.
Okay. What
Very unlikely.
what is a normal increase?
It's hard to say because it fluctuates every year.
Well, it's hard to say because the book is 84 pages long. If you had an actuary who could figure it out, we could have Julie spend about 6 months trying to figure it out, but you can't figure it out. If you went by the old governor, Angry Andy, he would just make up a number and give it to you. If you go by the current governor, we can try and follow the foundation aid formula. So he used it as a stick to beat us up. Now, Governor Hochul is at least trying to follow the law, and you're right, Russ, it's not gonna be that much. I
No,
can't
but-
tell you what it is.
But let me ask you, how much foundation aid do we get? 100 million?
Oh, yes, yes.
120.
Okay, say 120.
120 million.
So 5%, so let's say we get 6%, so we'll get 8 million, half.
Okay, we're expecting that we'll get 112 million
112.
Okay.
in foundation aid
So if
alone.
we got, if you could follow me just for a minute, interrupt me, it's fine. So maybe we can assume we'll get 8% next year, so we'll get 8 million. That too high?
I-
Cringy.
I would be afraid to assume any percentage
Okay,
increase
so-
for
so-
subsequent years.
Okay, so let me just take a shot at this. So we got 16 million this year. You don't want to commit on a thought of 8 million, so let's just say 5 million. So we have a difference of 9 million. Okay, correct? We're not going to have 9 million extra next year, because this just got influx this year.
Correct.
We're losing 9 million of ARP and whatever it is fund, so we got 18 million differential there.
Well, we're hoping that the foundation aid would not be reduced by any stretch, so we would be carrying this level of foundation aid forward, plus any addition.
Right, but what I'm saying is, this budget, essentially this budget has an artificial influx of cash of that extra $8 million that we're not going to get next. Let me try to make the point a different way. We actually have an $8 million shortfall because we had an extra windfall of $8 million in foundation aid.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I
agree with you.
Well, I think too, once we get the run and we actually get the detail, instead of right now, we just have a number of the increase, we'll be able
Yeah.
to see how much of that 16 is the extra phase-in versus what the new formula is going.
Right, but let me finish my point. No, it's okay. I get what you're saying. I'm using round numbers and I'm not looking for detail. My point is, that's 8 million we don't have next year. That 8 million is a one shot in this year. I'm gonna call it a one shot because we're only gonna get it once. We actually have an $8 million deficit this year that was artificially funded by that increase in aid. Just a point, because next year we're not gonna get that. And where I'm going is that cliff is still there. Now, the 8 million you took back, you're gonna shed a lot of one-shot expenses. So I know that was a good move. You're hoping that the roof is gone, that's
Right,
gone.
right.
So that 8 million maybe will end up with 3 or 4 million. But my point is, it's a balanced budget, but it was balanced because of, I don't want to say one-shot revenue, excess revenue, or revenue unexpected.
Correct.
Just a
I don't
point.
remember them giving us a cost of living increase in addition to foundation aid before.
I just wanted to make that point that, it's a good year, and we've always spent money when we had good years. There's an argument that could be made, we could save some of this, but I'm not making that argument. I'm just pointing out that next year, it may not be as green.
I think, Russ, that I agree with you. I think I agree.
That's a switch.
It is a switch. I think I agree with you. I just want to, of course, I have caveats to that. I think I agree with you. But I think what I'd like to say, and you're right, and Julie said it, we don't know in that 16 million how much, we might have, maybe it was 4 million was the makeup. So it could be 12 million. So the numbers are the numbers. Your philosophical point is correct. The only thing I would say to that is, and I think you'll agree with this, we did the best we could with this money because it was given to us to help kids catch up from 18 months of COVID. So we used it in the best way we thought we could to help kids get back to where they needed to for the loss. That's why that 9 million was given to us, right? Why did we get the ARP money? The federal government wisely realized that we needed to come back from a once in 100-year pandemic, so they gave us, and we used it correctly. We're trying to bleed it back in. Now, you're 100% right, and I think what will be the tail of the tape on your conversation is, of that foundation aid number, what is our number? Is it 12 million and 4 million was the catch-up? Was it 14 million and 2 million the catch-up? Was it 8 and 8? We don't know what that is. hopefully in the next month, we'll be able to give you that answer. But philosophically, you're right in terms of the money.
Well, actually, Mark, yeah, and thank you. And then, you know, we're all on the same page. We want to do best for kids. I guess the last point I want to make is a lot of that ARP and the extra revenues were given to catch up.
Right.
We're bringing them into the general fund forever. That's the last thing I'm going to say.
I hear you.
Okay?
You're
so
right.
when I ask what happened and what do we got for it and where are we going with it and what's going to help us, I think that's important.
You're right.
And that's all I'm asking. I mean, that's probably the bottom line of all my questions.
No, you're right. You're right. You're very fair in that statement, and I agree with you. As much as we banter, I agree with you. I wanted to just show one more thing to the community and to the board and to the audience, and then I'm going to try and start to answer that question about what's our ROI, right? What's our ROI? Because you've raised it for 3 years now, and tonight I'm going to only try to do things off the top of my head. But I will give you a full ROI in the next month or two. Can you just go to the last page? Because I do want to show, in the spirit of transparency, we used to be able to do this in one page. But I do want to show everyone this. What we've also done is we've listed, just so everybody in the city, everybody in this district knows exactly where our reserve funds are. We're not hiding any money. We're not slush funding any money. It's all right here. This is all audited information. All audited information, and it's in the Drescher and Malecki point. The only thing, two things. I caveat that with that fear that I have about CVA cases, and I caveat that by telling you that we'll have some decisions to make, Russ, if the way you lay it out happens. Do we want to use it? Do we not want to use it? But the only thing that Becky and Julie have not been able to do is there's this false sense that the tax cap is 2%. That's not true. That's just a political talking point. The tax cap is not, our tax cap could be a heck of a lot higher. They just need some time to figure it out. I'm not insinuating that we're going to go there, but I am telling you that they'll compute that, nor do I think that we should go there. But I just want the public to know that those are our reserve funds, okay? I just want to try to answer your question, and I was just making some notes, and working with the team, I'll try to give you some more information, and we have a lot of administrators here tonight, and I'm glad to see them, and they're the ones, you know, you support them with those decisions. But the people in front of you, most of them are administrators in buildings who are charged in this district by carrying out and making that return on investment work, along with our teaching staff, who is the seminal point of meeting the kids. And I made my point about coming back from a pandemic. But I guess to your question, Russ, and my initial thinking is so what metric do you want to use to give value on the return of investment? It gets a little bit difficult in education. So my stream of consciousness thought answer to you is, okay, what metric do you want to use? If you want to look at, after the second year, did we come back from the pandemic and come back in a good way? I think the answer is you should be very satisfied. If you want to look at the graduation rate at Niagara Falls High School, once they finally release it, I think you're going to be satisfied. I don't think you're going to be completely happy that it's everywhere it needs to be, but I think you're going to be satisfied. If you want to look at our schools and say, are they safer today than they were 2 or 3 years ago? I think you're going to be very satisfied. If you want to look at, as a metric, the care, the needs, the feeding, the clothing, the social, emotional support that kids need, I think you're going to be very satisfied. If the metric is, do we do a better job than 95% of the districts in understanding the world and diversity, I think you'll be very satisfied if that's your metric. Do we want to be known as a district and use a metric that has a social safety net for kids? I think you're going to be very satisfied with the answer. Do you want to use a metric of accessibility for programming and knowing that every student at that high school is not going to college, and that we've got programs, alternatives, pathways to excellence, financial literacy courses, technology, I think you're going to be very satisfied. If you want to look at individual student growth compared to the student, I think you're going to be satisfied. If you want to look at 3 to 8 testing and the NAEP exam, I think you're going to be very unsatisfied. So what metric do we want to use? What metric do we want to use? I'm asking that rhetorically. I'm just trying to tell you where my head is on how are we going to rate how we're doing. Am I satisfied? We're never satisfied. You should never be. These people aren't. Those administrators aren't. We're never satisfied. I guess it becomes a metric of what do we want to look at as a good school district. And we have 19 different opinions in here.
Well, if I could, everything you just said, if we could just take when I say a glance, I really mean a glance.
Yeah.
A glance back before COVID and after COVID. Is it new? Is it a new program? Many of those programs we've been doing for the last 10 years.
Right.
Have we improved it?
Right.
In other words, I can use an example that I know. I know we can all agree on is social workers.
Right.
Okay, we didn't have any, or we have 1 or 2. Now we have several. I mean,
Right.
Unless they're not doing anything, it definitely made an improvement.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
that's where I was going with.
You're 100% right. I think they've provided that social safety net. Have they alone improved attendance? I don't think so.
You know,
Yeah.
there's a good example, attendance. We
Yeah.
have more staff, more people monitoring. Is attendance gotten better?
Yeah.
If the answer is no, if we have 10 people in attendance, then maybe it's the wrong 10, maybe they're doing the wrong way.
Yeah.
Or maybe we need 20. I don't have the answer. The education, I have to look to you folks.
Right.
When it comes to numbers, I hope you look to me. But anyway, that's kind of a metric.
No, I look to you. We look to you for your skill in
No, I'm
many
only
areas.
being.
No, I know you are,
know.
but I just a couple of things, and again, I don't want to belabor this, but I'm going to really rely on Rick. I'm just looking at you. You helped us. You supported the elementary principals and teachers out there, and we added up to 9 math AIS teachers this year. I think we have 9 math AIS teachers. You remember this? We only had math AIS in 5 of our schools. We went to all 8 of them, but I think Abbott might have 2 math AIS teachers. 65% of the students who received the intervention met or exceeded the NWEA MAP growth target. I think that's good. I think that's good. I don't think that would have happened without the 9 math AIS teachers. Now, what would it have been? I don't know. You all know this because you really got into this. You supported reading recovery, right? You know this very well. We've had great presentations from our reading recovery teachers. We went from, I don't know, Rick, where you were at one point, maybe 5 to, we started at 2, and what are we now? 12. We went from 2 reading recovery teachers to 12 reading recoverers, and 60% of those students are still at or above level. So it's a super good question you raise. If we don't look at the return on investment for all that money we're spending, one of your major responsibilities is to be financial stewards of the district. You're not doing your job. I'm not doing my job. So I think your questions are right on the mark. I just wanted to present 2 things. There is some hard data that we're going to be able to get, especially around academics with Rick and others' help, Rick and the administrators' help. And then there's going to be some other unquantifiable things like social safety nets and understanding the world and preparing kids from the high school to not go to college but to do other things. Some of those things are unqualifiable. So I think what we'll do, because you did support the high school with, and I don't have the statistics on it, but I'll get it. How many of those kids are doing internships in PS2? I think the number's around 250. How many of those, we have a PASS team that goes after students, I don't mean to say that way, excuse me. We have a PASS team that helps students who aren't being successful at the high school with their attendance really trail them. I need to talk to the high school to find out how they're doing. That you put a lot of money into that, you know. I think, and we, you know, I met with the Gazette editorial board today, and I told the administrators this, one of our continual problems, and it is a societal problem as much as it is a district problem, is our chronic absenteeism is not improving. The only thing that makes me have a little bit of pause is when I speak to colleagues, other school districts, they have the same concern. It's not like it's Niagara Falls and Buffalo. It's pretty endemic in schools. We have not returned with good attendance across our district or other districts for a multitude of reasons that we can talk about. I really love the conversation. I think as a board, you do a good job by asking those questions. You're right on. Sure, Ms. Dunn.
Somebody recently asked me if I was satisfied with the progress of sister schools. I couldn't answer, so how do you feel about that? I mean, do you think it's moving in the right direction from when you first wanted sister schools? I told him I was sorry I couldn't answer it, and of course, you know, they said, well, you're a board member, that's something you should know.
Yeah. Well, I can, again, we can have a full discussion on that. I think it's, you know what, Ms. Dunn, I think it's a good agenda topic that we should bring back. But my answer, just off the cuff and from anecdote, is, yeah, I am satisfied with it. I think I see Mrs. Buckman, I don't see Niagara Street here, but I think you see quite a different climate of learning at Kelfus and Bond School. And I think you see quite a different focus with the teachers, especially when they have a smaller age range of kids. I see Ms. Manella and Ms. Tompkins here, and they have the 3 to 6 population, which presents many more challenges and difficulties. But I see the teaming that they've done with teachers. I see a lot of the programming that they've been able to bring in. I think in order to be fair to your question, we need to have a separate conversation where those administrators, those 4 or 5 administrators, really start to give you more detailed information, because you have a right to answer that. And as a major district shift, you and this board have a right to know, is it working? Should we revert back? I don't think so. Are we doing enough? Are we doing too much? Should we look at other schools? I think it's a good question. I really do.
So when this person come back at me, because I know they will, I can safely say we are moving in the right direction, but we're going to look at it a little bit closer, and I can give you more detail later.
You said it beautifully.
Okay.
You said it beautifully. I do think we're moving in. I mean, I'm looking for Ms. Buckman, Ms. Tompkins, Ms. Manella. I'm looking for your heads.
I'm planning on getting to all these places.
Yeah.
It just takes time.
Yeah.
Because I hear an awful lot about Abbott. That's why I want to come to Abbott. But it's taking me some time to get there. But I am going to get there, because I have some concerns that people are bringing to me about Abbott.
Yep. In any school, you go to Abbott, you're greeted with donuts and coffee as you come in. No, I'm kidding. No, please do that. My answer to you is yes. It's a great question, and we owe you a more full articulation of the pluses and the minuses.
I just didn't like the fact that the person said, I'm a board member, I should know. Yeah, true. I should know a lot of stuff about what's going on, but it takes time.
Yeah. It takes time. And the other thing I would offer is that you could always refer that person to me, and then I would refer that person to Ms. Tompkins and Ms. Manella and Mr. Marino, Ms. Brundage, and Ms. Buckman. So I would refer that to them, because I think we could tell them and throw a lot of numbers at them, but I think the best thing to do is go walk the building, with one of the administrators and see. That, because, he's going to say it because, he thought of it, or I didn't think of it, number one, but that's the best answer. You answered it perfectly.
Mark, I want to piggyback on that, because
Sure.
I just showed up at high school last week, for the intention that we're voting on millions of dollars. I want to see what's going on. And Ms. Villardo and Mr. Rotella were nice enough to bring me around, and I was actually very impressed with it. We tend to only hear the bad, but I wanted to see for myself, and I was very impressed with the whole operation. But to Clara's point too, I'm gonna make it a point to view these schools and see it. And we should know this. We're voting on $165 million. We should know what's going on. And so far, so good. I think it's money well spent from what I've seen.
Right. I happen to agree with you. So I think in many places, we fight a terrible perception problem. A terrible perception problem. And there is not enough publicity and not enough belief in what we do. And we've got to continually show people time after time after time. And for every 18 times we show one good thing, it's that one bad day, and we're all going to have one. Each one of those administrators, each one of those schools is going to have one, and then that fulfills somebody's prophecy of what they believe in or perceive. So we really have to do a better job of letting people know the good things that happen, and that's why I try to, even when something isn't good, get it out there, put a light on it, explain it, own it, and improve on it. And that's what I expect the administrators to do as well. Put a light on it, own it, and improve on it. And we'll get better. We're nowhere near where we want to be, but as I know you know, Ms. Dunn, and I know as you saw, Mr. Capizzi, what you hear and what actually you see are two different things. And unless you live that, it's not always in a perfectly 20/20 visioned look. So I encourage everyone to do that. It's a tough thing. I'm not going to just pick on Gaskill, but I see Mr. Zimmerman back there and Briglio back there. You walk into Gaskill. That building is so well organized, so highly, kids move. Now, of course, there's certain people that get out of line from time to time. It is so well run, organized, laid out. You walk by and you know there's a stanchion there because they don't want you going at this time, and they've got it figured out to the minute. And then I walk into one of them, and they pull up their phone because they've got an app that says, we just had 6 people in the bathroom at this time, because they're using some kind of an app. I'm like, how did you know that? They could tell you to the minute how many kids are in a bathroom at one time. That doesn't get told, and yet I see that, and I'm not in the buildings like I should be. And I know that, and sometimes, if we're speaking frankly, because I know I've had this conversation with Zimmerman and Briglio, Gaskill gets a bad rap, and it couldn't be further from the truth. It couldn't be, they're not perfect, it couldn't be further from the truth. That's not to say LaSalle is better or worse, but Gaskill is a very, 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 very well-run school, as Abbott and as the other schools. So that perception is a real challenge that we've got to fight. And there's only one way to do it. Keep touting our strengths, keep owning our weaknesses, and keep getting better. Okay?
Thank you. Thank you
You're
for...
welcome.
Any other questions, colleagues? Thank you, nice job. Thank you.
So the plan on February 9th would be, just so you know, February 9th, we have a brief presentation from Abbott students. Mrs. Tompkins and Ms. Manella and some students from Abbott are going to come for a nice presentation for you. Then Mr. Graneri on the 9th is going to give, with the technology committee, give the his recommendation for the interactive whiteboards. And then Becky, Julie, and the team will come back up with more detailed budget information. And we'll keep doing the budget stuff until, I want to say, the end of March, when we finally get to a number and ask you to approve it, and then we'll have a public hearing and a vote on May 16th. Thanks. Did you want some recognition for being here, Mr. Massaro, or were you just clearing your throat? Okay, I hadn't mentioned you in the last hour. I thought you were lucky for being. We also have an excellent attorney. Yeah. I don't know, he coughed. I said, like, I didn't forget you. I just, I didn't know. Angela, thank you very much for your work back in the 30s on education. We appreciate that. All right, let's, I only pick on the people I love, and I'm smothering you always. Let's go to the agenda review, if you don't mind. Thank you for allowing us to proceed. First of all, I'm going to, in my comments, I'll get more into Judy, but Judy has been doing lots and lots of work, but I'll save those comments for later in the evening. We do have some written communications, Mr. Petrosi. This came from Niagara Falls High School. As you know, at Niagara Falls High School, you, 2 years ago, authorized the purchase of musical instruments. And through the work of Mr. Ventry, Ms. Shiro, some others, they asked for some more musical instruments, saxophones, etc. The students wrote thank you letters for all of their new musical instruments, so you may want to enter this as distributed at the board at written communication time. But these are very nice letters from the high school students in the music program, thanking the board for their allocation of funds for new instruments. A lot of saxophones, I noticed when I read the letters. We have a lot of sax players over there, Mr. Ventry? Okay, lots of saxophones. Mr. Bilson, are you good with the sax? Okay. We have budget transfer number 6, only 3 away from budget transfer number 9, and a chance to hear a song. We have certificated and classified personnel reports. Ms. Massar, would you come forward and lead us through the asterisks and any other personnel reports that the board's going to be asked to vote on in about 19 minutes?
Everybody has a copy of the report, right? Judy, did you send everybody the report? Okay, 'cause I just wanted to make sure that everybody had it before we started. Thank you. So on the certificated report, I believe we begin with our first asterisk. On the top of page 2 of 9, where you're seeing we have 3 60-day conversions to report to you. 2 of them convert in this month. No, actually, excuse me, 2 of them convert in February, and 1 of them converts at the end of this month. I will tell you right now that the first name under the conversion list, that salary will change. That person does have some additional years of service that we are going to give her credit for, so that salary is going to be changing. Your next up, you're going to see 3 tenure appointments. We were talking about our social workers, and these are 3 of our social workers who have been with us for 4 years now, and they are going to be receiving tenure with an effective date of January 30th. So you're going to be voting on those 3 this evening. Involuntary transfer to balance some speech time, and then the other asterisk that you see on page 3 of 9 there is the appointment of our new Teacher Resource Center Director to take over as of July 1. We will be talking to you a little bit later on in the year about some transition time, so that person has the opportunity to transition with the current TRC Director. On page 4 of 9 and forward, the next asterisks you see are about per diem and Schedule B work that we have added since your last meeting. Does anybody have any questions regarding the certificated report?
Just a comment. The social workers, Maria's process is that she speaks to the administrators, makes sure that their evaluations are in good shape. If you remember, we added social workers in the middle of the year, back 4 years ago. That's why they're off cycle, getting tenure in the middle of the year. I also wanted to say that we have a retiring Teacher Resource Center Director, and in order to onboard a new director, the Teacher Resource Policy Board, in conjunction with Maria, Ray, and Rick, along with the Policy Board, of course, led by Mr. Weiss and team, had a really great interview session. I think they interviewed 7 really solid candidates and had a pretty tough recommendation to give to me, but I support the recommendation, and that's, as Maria said, there's going to be some onboarding time because it is quite a different and intricate job that a person will have to undertake.
Next up is an addendum to the certificated personnel report that you should have. That addendum has the approval of 2 memorandums of agreement, one with the administrators union and one with the substitutes union. Those are the newly negotiated extended contracts, And I believe that we have, and you have, had the opportunity not only to review the MOAs that we have before you this evening, but also to learn extensively about the new terms of the contracts. So if anybody has any questions, we're happy to answer them for you, but that's what the addendum is comprised of this evening. Mr. Laurie, did you want to make any comments?
No, I think we went through those thoroughly in executive session. Last time we were together on the 5th, I think we've answered questions. I think you had one strong recommendation that was agreed to and put forth in that memorandum of agreement. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then on the classified report, we've added for you on page 2 of 8 and on page 3 of 8 some probationary appointments of a program aide at the Head Start Center, an assistant child care associate at Gaskill Prep, a cook at Cataract, a cook at Abbott, and an assistant cook at Bleneva Bond. Some temporary appointments, and again, the temporary appointments are until those probationary appointments become permanent. An assistant cook at Man, a temporary cook at Man, a temporary assistant cook at Man, a temporary assistant cook at Cataract, and a temporary assistant cook at Abbott. Does anybody have any questions regarding those appointments?
Yes, Maria, were they on the report that was given to the board last week?
No, they're here starred this
All right, so
evening.
that's an addendum that's got to come in then.
No,
No?
those are in the starred report. We have been giving you reports with asterisks on them.
Okay.
And those aren't addendums. The actual addendum, which is something.
It's just the one coming in.
Is just the one for the certificated
Certificate.
report
Okay,
this evening.
I'm fine. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Great job as usual, Maria. Thank you, and congratulations on that fire suppression system. We're really, really happy for you, Maria. Something you put in your resume. That's awesome. The resolutions have not changed, with one exception. You can see the first 5 are acceptance of funds in our robust grant program. Number 6 was a donation of $500 of food and clothing. 607, 608, 609. Statutorily, we're required to have safety committees, et cetera, et cetera. We did correct the name of the police chief that I incorrectly left on there the time before. Judy doesn't take a break with her appointment of registration dates. That's the May 16th vote. Judy, right? And you're going to do this all over again with all this stuff?
That's correct. We're starting over.
Starting over again for May 16th. 611 and 612. I think we went through these before. These are the amended agreements with Niagara Falls Memorial Medical Center for OT services and PT services. We talked about that. 613 is for Robert Jacobus. He is our bus consultant. Our 2 bus coordinators have been in flight or on the road, no pun intended, for the last 2.5 weeks. Becky sees them and works with them every day. Robert was in last week on the old contract. Now we'd like to keep Robert with us for the new contract, in addition to something that I know the administrators here will be happy about, the installation and implementation of Route Hub, so that we have a one-stop portal for bus changes, additions. We can eliminate texts, phone calls, and the Pony Express when we want bus changes. And Robert's going to help us put in Route Hub. That's what that is for. 614 is for to pay the plumbing for the drinking fountains. We have 27 of the drinking fountains, and these are the bottle fillers. Mr. Zimmerman keeps holding us up at Gaskill because he keeps changing the location of the bottle fillers at Gaskill. That's why those aren't done yet. We have about 5 bottle fillers yet to put in. Yes, he's big on hydration, but we owe MLP. We owe them that money. 615 is to pay Ferguson Electric for the Smart Schools cameras that they installed, and the wiring for Ferguson. I'm sorry, 616 is for the cameras, and 617 is when Eddy Street ran over a water line at Abbott and broke it that one day before school. We have a not-to-exceed number of $20,000 in there. Earl was able to ascertain the final cost at about 15.1, Earl? Thank you. So your resolution says not to exceed 20,000. The cost was, I'm kidding about Eddie Street, by the way. He did not do that. I don't know, Lynn, Angela, tell him I'm only kidding. At Russ, it was $15,000. Eddie didn't do it. Okay. Those are the resolutions that we're asking you to support. You've got your normal business. Here are the upcoming meetings. February 9th, excuse me, the Soapbox Derby, the Abbott students would like to present something to you, about 15 minutes. It'll be great to have them here with a couple of their teachers. There's the budget from Julie and Becky, and then it's Ray and the Technology Committee. That night I've invited the whole Technology Committee to come to talk about interactive boards. Then on the 23rd, we have a donation. A representative wants to come for a donation. We'll do the general fund budget, and it might be a good time on the 23rd or a subsequent time to talk about sister schools. Ms. Dunn, I think that was a good question. Or, yeah, I think I'm gonna speak to the administrators to give us an update to be timely to your question, and we'll add that in there on that evening, because I think you're right. We owe you that explanation. We owe. Please invite that person to come as well as invite them to Abbott. Those are the upcoming meeting dates. Mr. Petrosi, members of the board, that's all we have for you. We do have an 8 o'clock meeting this evening if you want to put the 8 o'clock agenda up there on the board. The 8 o'clock meeting, Ray, and members of the board, is for one topic. That is to have you certify the results of last evening's election, which was favorable with 591 votes. 521 of them were in support. 70 of them were in denial. We needed 60%. We got 88.1%. So it did pass, and we will then give you a timeline, probably in March, of how that starts, but we got to get moving now on these capital projects as well. So your 8 o'clock statutory meeting requires you to have a vote. That's all we have for you this evening. We will need an executive session afterwards, but I'll go through those reasons at that time. It'll take us more than 10 minutes for the two items. I did have a couple of updates, or you could take a break, whatever you'd prefer, Mr. Petrosi.
Go ahead, we'll just take 5 with the updates, and then we'll take 5 before the meeting.
Sure, I'll go through these quickly, and I'll ask Ms. Villardo to jump up and jump in on this. I wanted to tell you that through the work at Niagara Falls High School on January 10th and 11th, they had a group called Open Buffalo come and address the students. And would you take a minute to talk about what Open Buffalo did and was, Ms. Villardo?
Sure. It's a group that represents Buffalo. They're actually located right near the top where the shooting was on May 14th, so they do a lot of work around justice. I think it's racial, economic, and ecological justice. And so we had them come and work with our seniors. It wasn't really a presentation, it was a facilitation of a conversation among our senior class around issues of race, power, privilege, poverty, things like that. And I have to say that our seniors handled it so incredibly well. They far exceeded my expectations in terms of their ability to intellectually engage in some pretty serious conversation with maturity, their knowledge of history and societal issues. They just did a really, really good job. We got a lot of positive feedback from students about never having the opportunity to have discussions like that before in school.
I just wanted to compliment the leadership and its teaching staff in bringing them in. I noticed teachers were scattered throughout the audience to help guide and support the questions, but just listen to the way your Niagara Falls High School students conducted themselves. You want to use that as a barometer of how well we're doing? I say you're going to be very satisfied. To that end, tomorrow, we continue our ongoing relationship with North Tonawanda. So tomorrow, a bus of students from Niagara Falls High School will be going to the roller skating rink in North Tonawanda, where they'll roller skate with North Tonawanda students. We are bringing in a speaker. The speaker tomorrow is Mr. Mark Talley. Mark's mom was tragically murdered in the May 14th shooting. Mark will address the students of North Tonawanda and Niagara Falls High School. And then the students together will bus to Platter's Chocolate, where they will see how chocolate's made and have lunch, and also assist me in sampling as much of it as possible. You're all welcome. I might show up, yeah, just for the orange chocolate. I wanted to compliment our prep school drama team. Last weekend they did Willy Wonka. Despite not getting a golden ticket, I think those 100 students involved in the prep school production were absolutely outstanding. Congratulations. Reminder to everybody that the high school drama production is the 26th, 27th, and 28th. I think it's Crimes of the Heart. That's happening at Niagara Falls High School. 20 students are going to Disney. 20 Niagara Falls High School. 20 Niagara Falls High School are going to a Disney Leadership Conference on the 29th, 30th, 1st, and 2nd of February. 20 high school students are going to Disney. What an opportunity for them. What a great opportunity you've given them. It's a leadership conference. I just wanted to say something about Dr. King. We celebrated Dr. King on Monday with a day off. There will be a district celebration for Dr. King. We decided 2 years ago that due to poor attendance, many conflicts, that we would be moving that, and we did last year. I recall being at Abbott, as a matter of fact, having a full audience. It was closer to April, but there will be a celebration with honorees coming up. We haven't forgotten Dr. King. One of the reasons why I like changing it, because we were getting poor attendance, is because we should celebrate Dr. King every month and every day in every way. And while we honor the significance of his January 15th birthday, we still have the opportunity and plan to have the opportunity to celebrate him in a very spectacular way, hopefully again at Abbott in the next couple of months. And there are some special civil rights awards that will be bestowed on people in the community. That is yet to be finalized, but it will be coming. Let me see if I have any other. I thank Judy. I wanted to, he's not here, but I wanted to tell you in my, here he comes. I wanted to tell you one last thing in my updates. The Niagara Falls Education Foundation, and you've been to the dinner, and the dinner this year is on May 3rd. As a matter of fact, Mr. Bass, I think you may have been awarded one year as an emerging leader, a good choice. I think the foundation made a very good choice this year as their emerging leader. His name is Sanquin Starks. Sanquin has created a program called United 716. And not only are we seeing dividends in basketball, and I know it's at Gaskell, it's at Abbott, it's at high school, but we have principals that I'm looking at that could testify that it's much more than basketball that he does. He follows up with the principals to make sure that anybody in his program is doing the right thing in school. So I think the foundation made a wise choice in recognizing Sanquin. At that evening, they're going to also bestow 20 Niagara Falls High School scholarships, $2,000, $2,500, great scholarships. They're going to recognize Sanquin, a young man who is a graduate of Niagara Falls High School. I was his principal, and I'm very proud of him. Had nothing to do with his success, but it's a great choice. And then, as I close my comments, I'd like you to know that we have a former distinguished alumni in Mr. Massaro here, also deserving, as well as Mr. Bass was in that year. This year, they're going to give that recognition to Mr. Russell Petrosi, who certainly loves to argue with me in good fun, has lost a shirt or two of mine, to be honest with you, but you won't find a person in this community with a bigger heart than Russ Petrosi. And I think that the foundation did an extraordinary job in selecting Mr. Petrosi, not only because he's my boss, but because he has been a mentor to me and a really good man. So congratulations, Mr. Petrosi.
Thank you for those kind words. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Finished? You all set?
I'm all done.
Okay.
I can't say anything else good about you. That's it. I've used my allotment for
Thank you.
January, February, and March. I'll come back in April and think of something nice to say about you.
You want to take five colleagues? Five? Five, deal. 5 after 7, we'll start. Thank you. Okay, may I have everyone please stand up for the pledge to the flag and the prayer, please? Thank you.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And we'll have a prayer by Mrs. Dunn, please.
Let us pray. Dear God, our Father, we offer you today all that we think, do, and say. We offer it with what was done on earth by Jesus Christ, your Son. Thank you for your blessings as we all say amen.
Thank you. All righty, Judy, would you kindly call the roll, please?
Mr. Bass?
Present.
Mr. Wilson? Here. Mr. Kinsemi?
Excused.
Mr. Capizzi?
He is here, he must be in the other room.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Kudella?
Excused.
Mr. Pareto? Here. Mr. Velardo? Here. Mr. Petrosi?
Here, thank you
Seven
very
present,
much.
two excused.
Thank you. We have a few letters of communications. We have one from Kathy Peters, a thank you note. We have several letters from Niagara Falls High School students in regards to the band. I will pass them band instruments, thanking everyone for the purchase of them and the new instruments. I'll pass these around. Everyone, you already got them? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to oral communications. I have a couple of names. Are these agenda items or are they non-agenda items? Okay, no answers, so I'm going to assume they're non-agenda items. Okay, we'll catch you at the end of the meeting. Moving on, recommended actions of superintendents of schools. We'll take 401 and 402 together, do the minutes for December 22, and approval of budget transfer number 6. Motion,
Second.
Mr. Bilson, second, Mr. Pareto. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you. 404, budget transfer received and filed, and budget status report 405 received and filed. The received and filed, we don't need a motion. I need a motion to bring in the MOUs to the agenda of the certificated report, the addendum. Mr. Velardo and second, Mr. Bilson. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? MOUs added to certificated.
Thank you. Certificate, we'll now vote on 4.06, the personnel report certificated, included the addendum.
Move.
Thank you, Mr. Pareto. Mr. Bilson, any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Taking on the personnel report classified, 4.07, motion, please. Thank you, Mr. Bass. Second, Mr. Velardo. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. We'll take 408 and 409 together. They're the reports from the committees on special ed and preschool special ed. Motion, please. Thanks, Mr. Bilson. Second, Mr. Velardo. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion is accepted.
Thank you. We will take 4.10. They are short-term contracts. We have NARP, Restorative Justice, the second one for NARP, Restorative Justice, SUNY at Buffalo, Lomax Barnes, father and son, John Irwin, online presentation, William A. Price, and Mark Talley. We have 8 of those, please. Motion.
Aye.
Thank you, Mr. Pareto. Second. Mr. Velardo, thank you for that. Questions? Call a roll.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. 4.11, the Head Start reports. Thank you, Mr. Bilson. Thank you, Mr. Velardo. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
Thank you very much. New business. We'll take 601 to 606 together. The first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 are acceptance of funds. One is extended school day, ESA Title III, Universal Pre-K, Federal IDEA, and mentor teacher internship. And the last one is a approval of receipt of gift from Trinity United Methodist Women's. Motion. Mr. Wilson, second. Mr. Pareto. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. We will take 607 to 609 together. These are the safety code of conduct issues. The first one is the appointment of members to the committee. Second is the appointment of members to the district-wide safety team. And third is the approval of the resolution authorizing principals to appoint building level safety teams. Motion, please. Mr. Bass. Thank you, Mr. Bilson. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
Motion's approved.
6.10 is the appointment of the Board of Registration. This is to designate our day, hours, place of registration. This is for our May election. For Judy to authorize, and Judy. Thank you, Mr. Bilson. Second by Mr. Pareto. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion approved.
Thank you. We have a few more contracts. We have one with Memorial, a second one with Memorial Medical Center, and the third 6.13 is school bus logistics. Thank you, Mr. Velardo. Mr. Bilson on the second. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. Moving on, we have a few payments for our capital projects: MLP Plumbing, Ferguson Electric, and UNS Services.
Move.
Thank you, Mr. Pareto. Second, Mr. Velardo. Questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Yes. Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. 617 is the approval for the emergency resolution to repair the broken water main in Abbott we've been talking about. Thank you, Mr. Bilson. Mr. Bass on the second. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Bilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi? Yes. Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Yes. Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
All in favor?
Thank you. We will move on. I'm going to go to oral communications for the public comment before. There are no reviews, no policies. Mark gave some of his. I will move on to the oral communications.
Russ,
yes.
Real quick, just I want to change my vote to abstain on 4.10.
4.10.
I'm not sure what I didn't go over all that, and I'm
So
not
noted.
comfortable voting yes on it.
Okay. Would you show an abstention on 4.10 for Mike Capizzi, and that leaves us 1, 2. I think we have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we have six and one exception.
Duly noted.
Not a problem. Okay, we're good on everything else. Moving on to oral communications. Forgive me if I mispronounce your name. Arlene Doss? Arlene Doss, want to speak? You don't want to speak.
Can I say hi, Ms. Doss? Good, we talked on the phone, we spoke on the phone yesterday. Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Looking forward to meeting with you. See you next week.
Oh, thank you for coming, Ms. Doss. Helen Coleman. State your name and address, Ms. Coleman, please, for the record.
My name is Helen Coleman, and I live at 1502 South Avenue here in Boston. I would like to speak on the children at Abbott School. The children at Abbott is out of control. And I don't mean out of control, I mean out of control. Miss Jessica, she's good with the kids, but they run so fast in the school and they raise from the cafeteria take your hoods off. Take the hoods off your head. You keep the hood and shirt on, but take the hat off your head. No. They look at you, put their hood on your head, and they be crazy. In there, they won't sit down. They run constantly in the cafeteria, constantly running. And Miss Jessica, she goes crazy trying to control these kids. And she said, you know, I don't even have kids, but I love kids. I said, I have kids. I got great grandkids in college. I said, but these children, I think if you had cameras in the cafeteria, it might control them a little better. But you can pull them in and show them what they're doing and how they're doing. They can call the parents in and let them see what their children are doing. The children is fully out of control at school. And they try hard and name calling. Not just little names, big names. The MF for a little boy, I think he's in special, one of the special class. The council was sitting there in front of him, and he's sitting behind the two of them. And he called this little girl a MF. And I shook. I said, did she hear what he just said? He said it again. So I yelled, I said, what did you say? Don't say that. And she jumped up and said, I got this, I got this. Should have got it the first time. But they don't. They're out of control. And nobody seems to really care. It's not like they try to discipline the children or anything. And if you talk to them, they sit there, I said, you know, this is for your benefit, not for me. This is for you. I'm retired. I worked 31 years on my job. I said, I'm retired. I'm here to do to try to help you look ahead of where you are now. Prepare your future. I said, what do you want to be when you're a college? Who wants to go to college? I said, you should want to be. I said, you should want to go to college. By the time you get out of high school, you can't even get a job cleaning the toilet without an education. You gotta have something in your mind, in the back of your head, that you want to do when you become an adult. You can't wing it now. You could wing it maybe years ago, but you can't wing it now. You gotta have an education to follow your life, to have a good life. They get to learn. And the girl said, well, my sister is finishing high school, but she don't know what she want to do. I said, well, she needs to find out what she want to do with her life. It's an awful thing. Leave cameras in the cafeteria. This way you can control what they are doing by showing them what they're doing. And maybe bring their parents in and let them see what these kids are doing. Some of the parents, I used to say, Mr. Larry, some of them have younger parents today than when I was coming up. You got real young parents today, not that much older than their children. And they need to see what their children are doing in school. It's awful. And one girl, she told me that she was swearing. I said, you kiss your mother with that mouth? I don't kiss her. Why do I want to kiss her? I said, you should know that you're telling you love. She knows I love her. I said, well, tell her sometime. And stop acting like you wild. You're not wild. You're beautiful young girls, and you act like you don't care about anything. I said, I know, I was at high school last year, and this girl said she couldn't read. I said, you graduated and you can't read? She said, no, I can't read, and I don't care. So, well, you will one day. So I got the children and some of the girls. I said, one day when we're at school, I'm gonna be the employee president. I said, you come to me for a job. And I'm gonna give you an application. I want you to fill this application out. Well, I never done that before. I said, well, this is a good start. Try Holly and see what happens. I said, if you fill the application out, I'll sit down and I'll interview you for the job. And then a couple of the other girls walked in. What did she say? I said, we'll interview you for the job. And see what happens. So hopefully they'll see it my way. But these young people need help. Lots of help. And I think if they had cameras in the cafeteria, that would show them what they're doing, how they're acting. And maybe it might teach them to do better or want to do better. Thank you. And I want to apologize for crashing in on the board meeting. That's why I first walked in.
Thank you for your comments. Thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Laurie, any other, you want to finish your report?
Sure, I do. I just want to, if I may, I just would like to address those comments for 1 second. First of all, I appreciate your suggestion very much. Secondly, I don't agree with you that all of the kids at Abbott are out of control. I don't, excuse me. I don't agree with you that all of the children at Abbott are out of control. There are some children in all of our schools that need correction. At Abbott, at Maple, at all of our schools. It's our job to do that. And I really want to support the 98% of the students, 99% of the students at Abbott who do the right thing every day. Are there those that need correction? Absolutely, 100%. The second thing I want to address is the staff and the administrators care very much. Their job is to make sure that they correct those behaviors that I'm sure you're accurate in saying it with respect to running and safety, so I appreciate that. But they do care very much, and they do put a lot of good effort into that small group of students who, you're right, need to really get focused, and we need everybody's support to help them get focused. But I would say of the 795 students that we have at Abbott School, there are more than 98% of them that do the right thing every day. And on their behalf, I'd like to just say that publicly and into the record. And I also want to say that while I appreciate your initiation of cameras in the cafeteria and the need to address and change the way students behave, that's a small group of kids, and that we'll work to do it better. And if it includes cameras, you have my promise, as does the board and the community that's listening and watching, that will happen. So I appreciate that. Thank you for letting me say that. Once again, I am super excited about some of the things that you heard this evening, board. I really appreciate your support of all of those resolutions. I thank you for the support of fair collective bargaining agreements. We have a staff that works very, very hard, and we are working our way through our collective bargaining agreements, who we value very greatly, and I appreciate your support of two of them this evening, and I know very soon we'll probably be bringing you a couple more, but thank you to the board for your support. I would take the administrative team that we have in Niagara Falls and put them up against any team anywhere. And again, that doesn't mean we can't get better, and it doesn't mean I'm not going to hold them to higher expectations as you hold me to those expectations. But I'm really pleased with them. I also think that you approved a substitute package this evening that makes our substitutes as competitive as any, cost-wise, pay-wise, as competitive as any substitute in Western New York. Your foresight in knowing that it's difficult right now to find substitute teachers, and it's incredibly important that we have them, and you pulling out all of the stops, including offering them pay raises, all for retired teachers, current substitute teachers, and uncertified teachers. I think that's appreciated, number one, and extremely wise as we try to compete for the best. And when you compete for the best, it's certainly one of the most difficult jobs any teacher could take on, is to be a substitute teacher. And we appreciate them, and I think you've approved a very competitive wage package for those teachers. I did get a chance to express my other updates. Appreciate everybody's work, and we will be back with more budget information. Again, just initially, thanks to Julie and Becky, who really worked those numbers day and night, and I look forward to tightening that number up before we have to vote on it in the end of March or early April. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark. I'll go around the table real quick, and we'll start with Earl.
Just thank you to our staff and all those who helped the district run smoothly.
Thanks, Earl. Mike?
Thanks, Russ. I just want to piggyback off of what Mark said. We tend to hear a lot as board members, and it's kind of our responsibility to see and follow up ourselves. I know we're not paid nothing, and it's a lot, but it is our obligation to the community. And just being here a year and coming in administration offices and high school, and I am going to check the other ones, I mean, we're not perfect, none of us, but we do a good job. There's some very good administrators, some very good teachers in here, and I've been impressed by what I've seen. So keep up the good work, Mark, you and your team, and all the administrators, and we'll keep pushing forward and do the best we can.
Thanks, Mike. Clara? Nick? Rob?
Ms. Holliday, Ms. Chaplin, great job. Thank you for the updates. Well done, well put together. Mark, you and your team, as always, just do a fantastic job. So thank you for your updates as well. Thanks to the administrators that came out tonight. Appreciate all of you. I know we all don't get to see you all the time, but it's nice to see you tonight. And always great. I mentioned this when we had the issue with the article that reported on Niagara Falls, and I stated how honored I was to come through the system. It's great to see people like Mr. Zimmerman, who went to school when I was coming up, Mr. Venturi, Idolo Baldessari, one of my teachers. It's just really cool to see everybody here, and nice to see everybody that came up through the Niagara Falls system, Earl and myself and others that went to school in the district here. Just good to see everybody. Appreciate all of you. We should all be proud to be part of the district, and I know I'm proud to be sitting here with all of you. Have a great night.
Idolo was one of your teachers?
One of the best. Had to give him a shout out.
Wow. Tony.
That was great.
By the way, I'm only 27 years old. Come on. Idolo, you're 36, right? Or,
Wow, I thought.
Wow.
Good, that was the
Well,
best.
actually, Idolo used to
way
be
to
my
turn
neighbor.
a compliment into a negative, Mark. Way to go.
Rob, you just blew it. He's been telling his wife a story for all these years. He just got caught, how old he is.
Gee. Idolo used to actually live like 3 doors down from me, but at one time. But yeah, he was a good neighbor, though. He kept his grass.
What is this? This is your life, Idolo? What is it?
Well, I'm just, anyways. Okay, gang. I know probably 99% of you folks, but you guys do a great job. And we as board members and myself, we appreciate all the hard work you do. And it's, a lot of times you guys are still in that office or in that school well beyond 4 or 5 o'clock. And sometimes you folks put your families on the back burners. And I want you to know that we appreciate it. And, I've known some of you pretty good from being a board member, or maybe even had my kids as students or administrators. But we really appreciate all the hard work you guys do, all the staff, all the teachers. We appreciate everything. Sometimes we get the bad press, sometimes it comes, but I know how hard you guys work, and we appreciate everything you do. And I think our kids do also. But real quick, go Buffalo Bills. Let's beat the Bengals. All right, anyways, might need a little help, but yes, as you guys, again, I'm glad our referendum passed yesterday. Again, we can put local people to work on our schools. Will in turn help our kids learn, be more comfort and more safe, and again, done with all good local union jobs. And for just a school district, we share that through this whole county as well as the city. But that's the name of the game. We take care of our own here, and I'm proud that it passed, and I'm proud to know that the bids will be out before you know it, and we will be, doing many projects on our schools. So thank you.
Thanks, Tony. Anyone in the back row? Girls, gentlemen? Okay. I won't ask Angelo because that'll be another hour and a half. Angelo, anything? I'll be very, very brief. Julie and Becky, thank you. You got your annual work over. I'm sure there'll be a couple others, but thank you for the answering the questions, and you did a great job. I want to thank the foundation for the honor. It's unexpected and greatly appreciated. I want to thank each and every one of our administrators for being here today. I think the bottom line is it's very simple, a couple of words: we got your back no matter what. We got your back. Saying that, I know we need an executive session tonight. I want to thank the public for coming also. Mark, you want to read the executive session?
I do.
And then I'll read the agenda.
Sure. I'm going to ask you to approve an executive session for two reasons that are permissible under the forms of motions for executive session. One is to discuss collective bargaining negotiations that are protected under the Taylor Law. And the second one is for pending litigation between the Niagara Falls City School District and cases involving the Child Victims Act. Those are the two reasons. After each of those, there will be no other action taken at the conclusion of the executive session. So there won't be any action taken on any of those. These are just for information and updates to the board on those two permissible. Mr. Wolf, if you're listening and watching, I know you watch very closely the executive session acts, but those are the two reasons.
Thanks, Mark. We will come out of executive session and we will be adjourning in the memory of the following people who unfortunately are no longer with us. Lomax Barnes Jr., son of Lomax Barnes; Roger Hillman, a retired warehouse worker; Dan O'Farrell, husband of Deborah O'Farrell; James Rose, husband of Kim Rubin, grandfather to students Kingston A.G. and Kevin A.G. Jr.; Patricia Schmitz, retired supervisor of our custodial staff at Abbott; Shirley Venturian, mother-in-law of Catherine Venturian; Frank Luke Williams, a former teacher; Taylor Woolston, a student at North Tonawanda High School; and Julie Cousins, who's the wife of a longtime friend of mine, John Cousins, and a former student at LaSalle Senior High School, class of '76. We will adjourn in the memory of those people. Thank you. Thank you for coming this evening, and good night and drive safe. Mark, 29 minutes. Mark it.
Mr. Wilson. Present. Mr. Consemi is excused. Mr. Capizzi. Mrs. Dunn. Mr. Cadella is excused. Mr. Pareto. Mr. Velardo. Mr. Petrosi.
Here.
7 present.
The executive session is paused. No, we're not done. The executive session's out of the regular. Yeah, it's paused. That the executive session tailed off, and then we'll pause the executive session and go back in. Okay. Purpose of this meeting is in accordance to section 2610 of the educational law. This statutory meeting is being held to examine, tabulate the statements and the result of the capital projects vote in several school election districts, officially declare the results of the canvass. So what we are doing here tonight is accepting the election results. So tabulation of the results, 3.01. Judy,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You
want to give us your count?
Sure, I'd be happy to. You had total voters totaling 591, 146 of those were absentee. You had 521 in the affirmative, 70 in the negative, giving you slightly over 88%, thus satisfying your need for a 60% majority in order to be successful.
Okay. Thank you, Judy. Moving on, certification of the election budget vote results. We need a motion 4.01, the adoption of the resolution certifying the capital projects vote results. Moved by Mr. Velardo, second by Mr. Pareto. Any questions? Call the roll, please.
Mr. Bass?
Yes.
Mr. Wilson? Yes. Mr. Capizzi?
Yes.
Mrs. Dunn? Mr. Pareto?
Yes.
Mr. Velardo? Mr. Petrosi?
Yes.
So accepted.
Thank you very much. Can I have a motion to adjourn the special meeting, statutory meeting for the election? Mr. Velardo on the first, the motion second by Mr. Capizzi. Call the roll.
All in favor? Any opposed? Meeting adjourned.
Okay, we will now go finish up our executive session that's been paused.
Right.
And we will come out and then we will adjourn.
And staff, we're good. We're good.
Okay, Wes, we're just going to adjourn so you don't need to stay.